Let's see, get my Twitch chat up. Stream is looking fine. I need to go announce the stream on Twitter real quick. Alright, let's see. Hey there, we got Doubter and Flying Solomon. How's it going, everybody? Is there anything I want to... Oh, I want to get this up over here. I pretty much guaranteed to want my documentation before the end of the day. By the way, super secret new 4coder feature just for the people who catch the streams. I uploaded to my site a couple of files for testing things. So if anyone ever needs a text file with 10 kilobytes of text or 100 kilobytes of text or a megabyte of text, I put these up here too, so you can just grab some text. I'm also going to make code versions, but they're not up yet. But yeah, that's not necessarily going to be there forever, just for as long as I don't take it down. But that's how I got the clipboards working everywhere, with full unlimited copy size. Before I get started, let me fill up the water real quick. Yep, that seems good. Alright. Well, so Dotter's asking me what qualifies as a handmade network project, and I'm not really the right person to ask. I mean, I put technically 2 projects up there, but I've basically canceled one of them. But basically what counts as a project is determined by the handmade network staff, which I am not a part of. My experience on it is that you just want to have something... The projects on there serve one of a couple purposes. And you should definitely, as Rupin is saying, you should definitely talk to Abner. He's the one who can give you a definitive answer. But the projects on there seem to serve one of a couple purposes. They're either educational, they're so that like you can follow them along. Like there's the Deceiver. I don't know if you guys saw this one. Handmade Network Deceiver. Latest blog post for this project. Definitely got some educational value, kind of interesting to read through and looks cool. Some of them are just useful, and that's what vein I put 4coder in. Like it's trying to do something that people might actually want to use, not necessarily be for educational purpose. Or it's like a library or something that might be useful. But there are definitely some games on there that maybe don't fit any of those categories, so who knows? Maybe there's also just projects on there that are games. So if you've got a game, you'd have to talk to Abner and see if you're the right fit for the site. Flying Solomon, I'm not entirely sure what you're getting at. A suggestion for the internal command buffers. I don't know what you're getting at there. Sorry. Oh, so you mean like the commands that have the little query bar on top? The single line input systems for commands? If you go modal, I assume by go modal you mean go into one of those commands. You can let the user update a buffer, and each command will have its own modal functionality and shortcuts. I think flying the buffers to be full featured. Okay, so what Flying Solomon is suggesting is allowing each individual command to have its own set of like functionality and shortcuts. So like if you're doing replace all, maybe you want to be able to paste and paste next, but it would implement those internally. The problem I have with that is that there's a large amount of what you want to build a lot of the times, or at least the things I want to build, I tend to want to have interplay between all the things that I've got, right? So I already have all the things that implement paste next and paste and undo and redo, and I don't want a separate implementation for those that works differently. I could already do what you're suggesting. I have the thing that reads input, and I could just build in the shortcuts for that stuff. But then I'm going to have a second implementation of those things that works differently, and then I'm going to have, like, whenever I'm getting text input, I have in one or more places this alternate implementation of those, that if I add a new feature someday, like, I don't know, you want the ability to, for instance, my thing that inserts the text space equals this, right? And you wanted to insert this into a bar, and I didn't think to shortcut that. I just want that interplay to happen for free. So I'm going to do a full-on buffer thing there at some point. In the short term, I could shortcut like at least paste that way, but I don't really want to invest in that direction at all, is the thing. Auto indentation bug. Let me see which one this is. I think this is the one I just fixed yesterday. Let me take a quick look. Have I fixed this? Yep, this is fixed. I just fixed this yesterday. Oops. Alright, so I'm going to start forming a to-do list. One last question I'll field before that. How do you go full screen? Oh, how do I go full screen? Well, I'm assuming you mean in Windows. And I use this. This comes from the wait, I already did this. Yeah, okay. So that hack was from when this wasn't working, and I've changed it since then. And I didn't take the hack note out. So to get full screen working fully, what you have to do is you get the Raymond Chen suggestion of getting your window placement and the monitor info, and then switching to a window that doesn't have this property here, the overlapped window flags, and then add it back in when you want to go windowed and set the full size to the monitor size. That works pretty well. The only thing you have to watch out for is the timing on when you do it, because if you just do that just directly, you'll be surprised to find that it fails. And the problem with that is you can't do it from here. You can't have a thing that creates your window and goes full screen here, or it like introduces problems. For some reason, and this is what I used to do, and I've cleaned it up since then, but for some reason Windows like behaves differently, and like Alt Tab stops working and all kinds of crazy things if you don't start windowed. So what I do now is I create an overlapped window like this, and then to go full screen you call the toggle. Call the toggle later, and I can't remember how that's done exactly. Yeah, right here. If I see that I need to go full screen, I toggle it later, but you have to toggle it at a certain time. I'm not sure if it's after you've created the window, or maybe there's other things you have to do after that too. But hopefully that gets you started. Yeah, but Raymond Chen's advice on that one is exactly the easiest thing you could possibly do to make it work. Yeah, so Doubter, it's whenever you're in virtual, he brings up the fact that whenever you're in virtual white space, it doesn't align the cursor to the code. It goes to 0 right there. I haven't fixed that. I don't really want to fix it. I know it's causing it, and it's this really nasty thing. Changing it would break everything, because it would take so much time to like keep fiddling with it until it works. There's probably like a hack I could find that would do it, but I'm just going to leave it alone. It's a bit annoying, but you can just do this on the cases where it's really bothering you, and then problem solved, right? Put your code right here, or just let it go down there, because as soon as you start entering, it gets fixed anyway. It's just a bug about where it places it. Okay, so let's pull up my Scratch real quick. I have over here a notebook in which I took a bunch of notes from the people I asked on Twitter how to make a function that takes in a bunch of Boolean options, still be readable, so that it's not like trues and falses. And I made a list. Here's my list. Let me pull up OBS so I can see if you guys can see the list. The list is this right here of all the different options people suggested. And this includes, there's the bad one, which is just having trues and bools in your parameters and not knowing what they mean when you read the call sites. You can use bit flags, obviously, where you just, for every boolean, you have a different flag that you can pass in. You can use enums, where one of two things you can do with enums. You can either, for each boolean, replace it with a different enum and then have the meaning of the true and the false named everywhere. Or you can have one enum that just enumerates all the possible combinations, which is useful especially in cases where there are combinations of bits you can't do. So you maybe can't do all three of the bools being true or something, and then you just list the ones that are actually real, which is actually what I would always do if I ever got into a situation like that. Like if there's something that can't independently be true or false in all independent of all other bits, then I try to collapse that into one parameter with an enum for all of them. You could split it up into multiple procedures so that each procedure has in its name basically the variation that it does. The problem with that is then you're doing 2 to the n different procedures when you have n different options. Let's see. You can of course comment or annotate the call sites, but then if those get stale, you've got a big problem. And you could make a struct with all the options in it and fill those things out, kind of like optional parameters above the call site, but that'll get pretty verbose. And then some other options you have, given particular technologies, labeled parameters and languages that support that. you could imagine a sort of bit field parameter thing that exactly solves this particular problem, where you list bools and then you include which ones you want to be true by listing their names again. And that sets them to true, and they default to false if you don't put their name in there. But that you'd have to think of how to pass a stored bit field then. And then finally, if you have code intelligence, you can just do bools and have it annotate your parameters. So I was looking at all of these, and the three that require special technologies aren't options for me, except maybe the code intelligence one someday. But I was thinking one thing I want to do is I could do the flags one if I had some 4coder features that support managing a flag, the flags version better. So, having analyzed the cost of doing it as flags and finding the reason why that's annoying, I came up with the following ideas for making that maybe less annoying. Okay, so things to do today. We could make convert bool parameters to bit flag in definition and call sites. It's a bit tricky for a couple reasons, but it's possible. So this one we can definitely do. Autofill and enum with flags, with distinct flags. Good, we can do that. And then some other things we can do. I had at one point implemented something like this, and I deleted it because I thought I was going to do something smarter, but then I didn't do the smarter thing, and I want to put it back in. The approximation of this, which is one of the things that takes a long time when you have lots of Boolean options, is just looking them up. And I want a way to like shortcut that to make it a single keystroke to pull up the list of the flags and hopefully their documentation. And I think I could just roll that into like a approximate declaration definition, or approximate jump to or search for declaration definition thing. Yep, that would be good. So those are from those notes. Let me look through my other notebook, completely different notebook, for ideas of things I want to do here. Any command ideas sitting around in here? Doesn't look like it. Okay. So I'm all caught up there. Karuifa comments that I have so many notebooks. I mean, you don't really understand. I'm kind of like, there's a word for this. I don't know. I fill up lots of notebooks. So this one was from my apartment. It was the one I had the night that I made these notes. That's why I brought it to the office today. I'm going to bring it back when I'm done. But yeah, this was just the one. This one's separate because I didn't have my other ones. This is my 4coder notebook. It's got all the notes that I've been doing on 4coder November. I have over here my 4coder notebook from earlier this year. That one's full. And then, let's see, what does this one contain? This is an even older 4coder notebook that contains stuff from 2016 and early 2017. And this one doesn't contain any 4coder stuff. It contains my other work. Almost full, but not quite. And then this one, the fourth of these, is, I think I already showed this one, the 4coder November notebook. Of these two are full. This one here is not quite full, but it's almost, and this one's like a quarter full, maybe a third, or maybe an eighth. I'm not sure. Not very much. And by full, I mean like 90% full. Once I have just sparse pages in between, I stop filling it. Yeah, once in a while I have a good time looking at the old notebooks, but the problem is none of my notebooks have ideas for more commands. I know I have other command ideas that I've been... yeah, so one thing I want to play with is I want to put more stuff on my clipboard, because a lot of times I have a thing where like I have a couple of commands that I've gotten used to using a lot. Let me pull up like a good place where I can show you some of the custom code to test this on. So I can control backspace, which deletes an alphanumeric, and usually when I do that, usually when I do that, it isn't a case where I need things on the clipboard. But I also have a command which is alt backspace that deletes the entire token, and often I'm just like, okay, get that, and then I want to like paste them back in. But you can see I didn't put them on the clipboard, and I kind of want to do that. I also have one that does alt delete, so I can do it that way. Which is different than control delete, which only does alphanumeric. Alt delete does the whole token, and I want those alt versions to go to the clipboard. So I want to put more stuff on my clipboard, and I'm going to try just putting it in for those particular commands. But that might be a thing that I want to think about. Do I just like compose any delete with a clipboard action in the like fancy 4coder full thing, like a copy mode where the next delete gets copied to the clipboard? I'm not sure. Hold on, I'm reading something. You could do a thing like with variadic macros where it call a function like foo real parameters, some flag, other flag, third flag, and make transform it into foo underscore flag prefix for some foo. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. I don't like, well, as you bring up the macro thing, I wonder if it'd be nice to have anything that makes it easier to write macros. I get what you're saying there, but I'm not sure that would solve most of my problems. Besides the fact that that makes it easy to do the transition from bools to flags, but normally I want my interface, I want my API to be like honest as much as possible. So I only like to use macros. I don't like to use macros for backwards compatibility, I guess. I'd rather change all of the call sites than actually put in a macro that keeps them working, because eventually you'll forget that and lose 30 minutes trying to figure out why some error doesn't make any sense because the macro is hiding information. It's just not the way I like to do it. What else could I do? I know I have a few other ideas sitting around. So there's the scope stuff that I have. Okay, so if we get through that, which I don't see why we wouldn't, one thing I want to look at is indentation inside raw strings. I already messed with the text indenter a little bit already. I won't do it inside the virtual whitespace indenter, but for people who are just using text, I could make the raw strings allow for indentation again, which would, I know, be handy on Handmade Hero, where like shaders are written with raw strings that are fairly complicated shaders. So Karifa, I'll give you a tip. There's a way to do what he's suggesting. So I could say if we do like our function is foo and it takes an A and a B and flags and then it does stuff and it doesn't return anything. The way you do what he's suggesting is you take an A and a B and then you take in a variadic number of arguments and you do yeah, you do foo A, B, 0, and then expand bit or VA arg. I think that's the right thing. I never remember if it's arg or args. Is it args? VA args. And then expand bit or can look like this. You take in A or like X and then dot dot dot, and then you do or X expand bit or VA args. So what that does, and this won't quite work because on like it won't work between GCC and CL, but I'm pretty sure that there's a way to make that work on both. It's just a matter of do you have to do this or something. I can't remember. For one of them you do, maybe. Because eventually this will boil down to every time this expands, it's expanding with one less parameter because you're doing the thing where what was originally VA args is now split into X and then the rest of the VA args. You put in the OR for the X, right? And then you expand the remaining VA args. Eventually this becomes just one single X and this one is empty, right? Or this one right here could be empty. And so the trick is just making sure that when you pass in nothing that it doesn't complain, and there's a way to do that, but I'm blanking right now. It's something close to this. Right, because when you pass in 1 here, yes, the only time this would fail is if you didn't have any flags. And then you would just have to put in a 0 for here. But if you put in a 0 there, then the X would become the 0, and then when this is empty, you have a way of making this not fail. I'm blanking, so I'll stop trying to explain it. But I'm pretty sure I've pulled something like that off, or something similar at least, because I do that in my maybe the trick is you insert your own 0. I think you have to insert your own 0, yeah, at the end. Right, so Doubter is requesting a sort of string eyes selection. Hey there, Canookles. There's definitely a way to do it. I think just I can't remember, but another trick that is often useful in such things is if you have like this and you're doing this, you can make it work better if you add in an extra thing at the end sometimes. Sometimes this helps, so then you're like your expand thing has this extra thing at the end that is sort of a delimiter that you use to end it somehow. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's possible. Right, so Canookles is bringing something up that actually is in my notebook, and I've been thinking I might want to just do this next. So the options here are, at this point, there's a complicated thing I might want to do, which is like list of context sensitive commands that are available for code transforms. And this includes like you know, since I'm going to have an enum list flags and enum fill flags and enum fill just like increment, enum fill, like n values, right? Plus plus. Um, they there's There's just I want to be able to have like a thing that lists which ones you can do right now, so that I can compress that down to one command and then just hit like code transform. Here's the list. Pick the transform you want to do, kind of thing, instead of having a different command for each one. But I might not get to that today. It's pretty complicated. The other thing is Canucles is asking about, and it's true. This is actually something I put on my to-do list. Maybe a good thing to do, which is work on like good starter code examples for custom layer. And I think that might be good to get, like, if I make those like free tutorial things that are out there, that that would serve the double purpose of helping more people understand how to write customs code, which might help them if they're trying to and struggling, and it would also serve as an example of what the custom code looks like, which might attract more people to give it a shot. If they haven't seen the API before and don't know what they're going to be getting themselves into, maybe having that there would give them the comfortability to give it a shot. And yeah, there's also a number of like pre-written things that people have shared on the forum that I might want to include in something like that. So I'll probably do that one just because it sounds fun. And I haven't worked on like tutorial / code examples on stream before, but that seems like a good thing to work on when I get done with the rest of this. So this one's pretty complicated too. I'm going to put that off. We can do these easier ones. Okay, so, and one other thing I want to do is at some point, I might just demote this all the way to the bottom because it's so complicated, but I want to revisit multi-paste a bit. Alright, so autofill and enum, that's going to go here, enum, yep, it's going to look a lot like this one. So I'm going to want to find a way to abstract this so that I can use it for two different types of things. And really what I'm probably going to end up doing is just going the easy route here and pulling it out into a helper. So write explicit enum values parameters, takes the application links, and write explicit enum values flags. Write explicit enum values not regular. What's the word for something that goes up by one? How am I forgetting this? Like incremented. Is there not a word for this? Because the other one would be values flags. This would be like um, integers, I guess. I don't know. And the idea is I'm just going to copy all of this into here. Whoops. Into here. And then when I go to actually write out the number, where is that? Yeah, Casey's customization is available in two places. He ships it in the Handmade Hero code. So if you have access to Handmade Hero, you can just download 4coder, uh, or what's it called? I think it's 4coder Casey. Yep. And I also ship it in the uh, stuff included in the Power zip file. With all the experimental and bonus customizations. I'm not sure what I'm looking for, Doubter. I feel like there's just, it's like enum is the problem, is that what I'm talking about is just enumerating the integers. And I don't want to put the word enum in there again, or enumerate. So I'm going with integer, but value. So how does value get computed? There. So here's the thing. If mode equals write explicit enum values flags, then value needs to be 1 initially. And if mode equals write explicit enum values integers, then do that, else I think I have a hex version, right? Hex string. Do I have int to hex string, int to hex char, hex string to int? It's telling me I don't have int to hex string. I have int to hex char. Hex string to color. I feel like that does what I want it to do, and it's just really poorly named. So the only trick is that it requires that I have right, that's okay. What about this one? So the problem with this one is that yeah, that doesn't work. Okay, well, I could either write one, or I can just put out an int, which is what I'm gonna do. Iteral would be a good word. So yeah, that lets me just put out flags, I think. So should increase by powers of 2. Could also write it this way. Okay, so that does raise one question, which is how am I storing value? It says I'm going to make that uint32. The cursor is found to be on the open brace of an enum definition. The values of the enum will be filled in to give each a unique power of 2 values starting from 1. Okay, write explicit enum values. Bind that down here. So I guess modifier shift would be correct. There we go. Man, I didn't get started until 11 getting this first thing done. I spent a long time getting around to the stream and making that to-do list. Yeah, I rent an office. That's where I am now. Alright, so let's go look at the to-do list. Done. Approximate search for declaration definition. Yeah. So for this one, what I basically want, let's go in experiments again. Punishment, here are those. Self-training to stop typing, Control S. Almost done with that. I've almost completely got it down. I almost never do that anymore. Yep, okay. I did remember another pretty simple one, which is some kind of incremental rename whole across whole project, or all open buffers. Okay. So I want one that's like go to definition or list definition struct. This one I don't think needs to go in experimental. We can put this right under search.cpp. What I don't have yet is a sort of regular expression searching system, so it's a little tough to search for type def. Which is something I might want. Okay, I have a solution. Okay. So this will be, where to put this? These are my searches. Okay. Approximate definition search. So it's going to work like this. Custom command sig, list all locations of definition, of type definition. Okay. Yeah. Lists all locations of type of strings that appear to define an input, the input string. Queries user for string lists all locations of strings that appear to define a type. Whose name matches the input string. Okay, that's what I want. Okay. So the idea here is we're basically doing a list all location, so it's a generic buffer search that needs to match exactly the thing we're looking for. Yeah, so okay, get search all. Get search definition. List definitions for input that, and this is going to be get search definition, and then I want to make a string by going int32 size equals, well, it's a bit tough. Yeah, generic search all buffers doesn't work with a list of possible matches either, which is what I actually need, which is what makes this tricky. I can only pass in one thing, and so I can't do struct this way, or union this way, or this name with a semicolon afterwards. I would have to write a new generic search all buffers, I guess. The other thing I could do is just pare it down to structs, or list all the locations for the thing they're looking for, and then add in a filtering concept. Okay. Yep, this is fairly complicated, so not trivial to deal with, but what could I do to make it work better? Can I expand this to take more than one string? What do you do with your string right now? String. Occurrences of string. Search iter init. So I'd have to change the way the search iterator works. And that looks like that's all I would have to change, which might be good news. Search iter init. Alright. Search range, search set, search iter. Search iter just contains the word we're trying to match against. So really, the only thing that has to change is I want to expand the idea. Okay. So I want to search.h. Types that are used in the search across all buffers procedures. Types header. I'm just doing this because this is starting to become a lot of types, and I don't want them all in the same file as the code anymore. Alright, and then what we're going to do is introduce, well, let's see if that builds. Okay. Open same buffer other panel, swap buffers between panels, and change active panel. Okay, those will actually help me a lot, because now I wouldn't have to do this. There we go. There we go. So everything still works, right? We just built and it worked. Yep. So, what I want to change, let's see, search set is the set of things we're searching. Search range is a range of a buffer in which we are searching. These are rules about what it means to match. Methods of search, directions of search. To use inside of a range. Okay, so this is the iterator that stores where we currently are in terms of the search. Last thing we checked. And this is a match that gets returned when we actually hit something. So what I wanna expand upon is, in particular, the idea of the search key. So that should break everything. Yep, there we go. So initializing, for now, the easy thing to do is just go, yep, just take the key and do what you were already doing. Okay. Key. Key. Alright. Now why doesn't that just get passed in during init? That doesn't make any sense. Iter init doesn't actually take string in directly, which seems like a mistake. Key string. Search iter init. Just taking the whole string, init. So after all this is done, no iter init. Memory size is less than size. Copy the key string in, and these are the key string dot size. There we go. Yep. So that is good. Where else do we need to change the key thing? I see, that's why I was doing it that way. So that I could allocate it and then set it however I wanted. Darn. Okay. So that's a bit annoying. This is not really doing a init, is it? I mean, it is initting the iterator, and then the memory that the iterator points to still has to be initialized. And it's key. Yeah, okay. Let me finish changing all of this, and then I will fix it. Because I have a plan that'll make it better. Okay, so that's good. Now if I'm initting an iterator, I want to separate the idea of initializing a search key, general search key, 32 size, and then instead of this can just take the search key, string max equals size times 2. Okay, so all of this iter arrow key dot is just key arrow. Search key search key alloc general key string dot size key dot word, copy the string into there, and then get rid of this and just set the key to that. Search key alloc search key looks a lot like this, but with this, and this can go away. This and this come up here. This goes away, and this becomes this. So alloc memory for the key. I read into the keys string, and I set the keys size, and then I store that into the iterator. Perfect. Let me make sure that I haven't busted anything. Okay, that's definitely still working. List all locations for part. Looking good, as far as I can tell. Okay, so everything still works. Now comes the tricky part, where I want to say, what if my key can do more stuff? So, first of all, where do I check for a match? Match check. Now, during a match check, what comes in? Result putter. Filidelsky asks what happened to the 2D space game I was working on. I ended up canceling that. There were a number of issues that were going on with it. Mostly, it was sort of a spare time thing, and eventually it got to the point where I needed one less spare time thing in my schedule, and that was the one I was most willing to cut. The other problem was the rest of the development team, like doing art and stuff, had basically already abandoned the project, so it had already become just a thing of me working on a game engine so that I could, practice making a game engine, and it was not really turning out great. Like, some of the ideas I had about how I wanted to structure it weren't so good. And so if I was going to continue with it, it would have been a right from scratch situation, and it just didn't seem worth it. So all that kind of together seemed like, might as well let this one go. Yeah, so right here is where I do most of the work that checks for a match. Hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. And the way the match check happens, I'm taking flags from the range and using that to determine what kind of check to do. And what is the word? Is word the thing I'm testing against? Is it the source that I'm testing? What's going on here? Okay, so it looks to me like word is the key. Where do I get word? Here word is passed in from the caller. Yeah, so what I want to switch to is I want this to be the search key. That'll be a key there. And so let me fix the problems that come up here. Kingsler asks, do you do only C++? Yeah, for the most part. Right now anyway, I don't have anything else to work in. Yeah. I mean, if you count shell scripts and things, I do work with those once in a while, but not any heavy-duty stuff. You know, just like little build scripts. And yeah, I can't remember the last time I touched a language that wasn't C++ actually. It's been a while. Philadelphia, are you working on other stuff than 4coder? Not right now. I've been doing 4coder full time, but I do have a normal job that isn't 4coder. Doing like side programming, helpful little utility programming for Casey. And King Siller asks, any low-level programming? Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of low-level. I don't do quite as much like super low-level like optimization of assembly kind level stuff as often as you might think. I stay at the level of C pretty much all the time. The only time things get close to being low-level is when I'm like if you count low level as like just doing really basic C, like organizing memory order in structs, I do that kind of thing. But it's been a while since I've touched like hardcore assembly level optimization, and I've not done any serious SIMD programming either. I do like program to the operating system all the time. So like opening threads on the operating system and stuff like that, which is I guess pretty low level. Croifa asks if I have any thoughts on Odin. I haven't looked at it for a while. It looked interesting to me, but I haven't got enough of a grammar, like enough of a fluency in it to really know anything about what I like about it. Based on what Ginger Bill has said, like in conversations I've had with him about it, the main sort of thrust of the things he tries to do with it is to maintain a sort of systematic and universal set of rules about what certain things mean. So, like, by contrast, in Jonathan Blow's language, there's, like, most recently, for instance, he was working on multiple assignment, and so there's, like, AB equals 2 or whatever, right? And in his language, this is just like a syntax that means assign A to 2 and assign B to 2, basically. It's just a syntax. It doesn't have some kind of like whole semantic concept behind it. It's just a one-off syntax. And Ginger Bill sort of focused on not having that kind of thing, like cases of little tricks like that weren't supported by a full-on universal rule that applies everywhere. And that's kind of interesting, but I don't know. It's sort of one of those things that I can see the appeal to it, because when John starts doing things like what he did with the multiple assignment, I'm thinking to myself like, oh, you just need to have a concept of like an infinite length tuple or like an infinite length series of things, and you can then assign that to any length thing. And I'm thinking in this sort of like this way where I'm trying to formalize the idea. And in truth, I've often found that some of the really useful stuff are the things you resist when you're insisting on being too formal about certain things. Like when you're trying to be super formal, you will out of hand reject things that just turn out to be like a really great idea. But like I said, about the language itself, I don't know. I just the attitude he has towards it, I empathize with it, but I'm suspicious whether or not it is actually a good idea, even though it sounds like a good idea, and I would probably do the same thing. Maybe because of the fact that I agree with the idea so much is why I'm suspicious, because I don't think my own ideas for making a language would probably be very good. As weird as that sounds. I feel like I would have a hard time designing a good language without getting distracted. Kingsealer asks, do I do any web dev? I do very little web dev. The only site I maintain is 4coder.net, and you can see the only thing on 4coder.net is HTML. There's not a single line of JavaScript. All the CSS is inline to the HTML. It's pretty lame web dev. But I auto-generate all of that from C++ code. So in a sense, I don't even think of that as web dev. I just think of it as me generating text files with C++ code and pushing that onto a server. Let's take a look. Not sure what went wrong there. Is that not a URL? Is that not supposed to be a clickable URL? Yep, so all I'm doing right now is just turning all the things that that take string words and turning them into taking search key all the way through this. I'm a little concerned by the number of places where I actually just use the the word of the string directly, that's going to be problematic. Like this right here, I'm using the word of the key directly, which means this isn't quite going to pay off the way I would like. At least in a lot of places I'll have to rewrite the code anyway. But hey, there we go. Let me just make sure all these things still do what they're supposed to do. There we go. So is this a like a documentation generation thing kind of thing, or let's see, inline documentation for API doc creates a documentation from API annotations in your source code. Yep, this is basically what I have for myself. I just implement my own because the way in which I want to include docs, it ties into the way I auto process my code anyway, because I have a thing that converts my API into like a wrapper for my API that changes, then does a little bit of name mingling from the internal to the external. So I just include my doc generator right inside that system. Okay, so that has everything working. Now the problem is, what if I wanted to have multiple keys? So like deduplicate the match checking code. I don't feel like that's duplicated anywhere. Deduplicate. Yeah, that's an old to do, I think. Unless there's some other place where I write that exact thing that I'm not thinking of. Match check. It looks like I have deduplicated match check and I didn't take the comment out. Whoops. Okay. So, yeah, this back to front, front back. Now, why isn't that included right in the loop? And actually, why is this got a loop and not this? Or why does this have a loop and not the back to front to back, back to front step? Oh, that's back to front step. I see. And then back to front does it in a loop. Okay. Yeah, I don't like that. I'm going to try and reorganize this to not use back to front and front to back step and just have just the loop with the code in it. Yeah. So search.cpp, here's the thing. We're going to try to put it right here. So app stays the same, range pointer stays the same, key stays the same, position stays the same, result, yeah, it literally all stays the same. At the end I return found match, and that, okay, so that will even stay the same. So found match gets set to none, and then I store a result, I search, and then I output that. And Why? Why do I even... Okay, because that's the result. Okay, got it. Got it. Okay. So I think I can get rid of that. That reminds me of another thing I want to do. I'm remembering all kinds of little details. Put more stuff on my clipboard. Better if zero and if wrapping. Okay. So I think that is the same. Let me see about this one. Probably exactly the same thing. App, range, key, position, result putter, found match. Yep, same thing. Whoops. I was on the wrong function. App, range, key, position, result putter. Yep, they're the same. Okay. That's good news, because I can do this, 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 this. Okay, result, and there we go. Alright, again, the test is just does everything still work the same way. There we go. There we go. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to get rid of these. And these. And there we go. Simpler code. Very good. By the way, let's take a quick line count out of just my own curiosity today. Okay, 53,691. Beginning-ish. 53,691. Okay, back to it. Back to front, front to back. Search front to back, search back to front. Right, so as they're going along searching, they seek strings, buffer seek string backwards. You don't check for insensitive, huh? That's a bug. That's just a straight up bug. That actually explains some things, now that I think about it. Not quite sensical behaviors that I have in the past ignored. String insensitive backward. Okay, and so both of these are basically doing seek next potential match. And that I want to pull out into one thing that goes on with the key. So after that we have a match check. Yeah, match check. seek potential match. Right? And that's going to look like this, and it's going to look like this. And it's going to include a there we goes. Okay, case insensitive, forward and backward. Okay. So these can just call into that. Seek potential match. Seek potential match. Forward. Seek potential match. And that doesn't really need a comment anymore, does it? Backward. Okay. Now, the only problem with that is that there are definitely more things in here that it needs access to. So let me just try and build to get that list. So it needs a range, and I do have a range pointer. It's probably going to need an app and all that. So let's just say one at a time. Application links app, search range, result. You need something called result. And the reason you think you need that is because okay, so what we want to do is I want to eliminate this and this. Okay. And so I seek for a potential match, app, range, result. Search match, result. Does this reuse the position at all? It does not. And it probably uses the key, right? Yes. So search key. Well, it would have to use the key. That's the whole point. Okay. So then these need to pass in app, range, key, and their direction. App, range, key, result, and their direction. My bad. Okay. Who are start position and end position? Okay. So you want me to pass those in too, I suspect? Wait a minute. These don't get modified, do they? Whoops. I see, so end position only matters when you're searching forward. When you're searching backwards, there's no need to know about that. Okay. And again, do I have partition cursor? Do I have partition? Whoops. Do I have part? Looks good. Alright. So that's all still working, which is good news. Okay, now I want to track down and see if there are any other occurrences of the search key that are problematic. This right here is how I set it up. That one's not problematic. That's assigning it to the iterator. That's not problematic. Potential matches, we have to work on that one. Match check. Search front to back is just getting passed in the key that it's matching against. Okay, great. So we've pulled it all the way out to to here. I don't know, you know what, let me just make a quick list here. So we have key allocate, iter, set init, commit, search hit, add. Table operations. Let's see, what is this? Buffer, seek, alpha, numeric, and alpha, numeric, and okay. We can hang out right here then, or whoops, right here would be fine. So this is search key checking. Potential match, match check, search front to back, match check. Yeah, so that's all the search key checking stuff. Search front to back, search back to front, search next match. Yeah, so that's okay. Get search, generic search all string. deal. So these things here basically are the find next match operations. Okay. Perfect. So now we've organized all that up. Need to stretch a bit. Let's see, I'd like to take a break in about 30 minutes to get food, because I'm getting a bit peckish. And I didn't bring anything to the office today, so I could make a quick break, so I'll have to go and take a full break. Like a 30-minute break or something. Okay. This belongs down here with this. Okay. So, almost 1,000 lines of this already. And we're gonna make it much, much longer. And by much, much, I mean like 100 or so. Maybe 200. So, we have search key. Where is this? There it is, search key checking. And there's basically, if I want to upgrade the search key now, there are a few things I have to change. I have to change how I allocate and initialize it, and I have to change these two calls here. This one and this one, which do the basic work of... Wait, I have buffer seek alphanumeric end twice? That can't be right. It's literally the same thing. I think I meant to delete this one. Okay. Doubter, to answer your question, view the screen now. The answer is 53,691 as of this morning. Hey there, new person. Welcome to the stream. Give me a minute to figure out how to pronounce your name. Temsin chick, maybe? That's what I'm gonna say. Hope it's good enough. Dad, did you catch that? You got the line count? 'Cause it's going away now. So, what I want to be able to do, basically, is just have multiple strings inside my key. I want to be able to say, let's see, if I'm going to do type struct, union, enum. I allowed up to 16. Just hard baked into the iterator. That would do it for now. And that would simplify the allocation problem, which might be a good idea. Yeah, now keep in mind that does include a little bit of stuff that's not fair. So let me look at about 2,000 lines of generated code, plus I think if I went to here, no, that's not generated anymore. Yeah, that's less generated code than I expected. That's about 2,000 lines of generated code, though. That's, what's the other thing that you got to take into account? Header, C. That doesn't contribute very much. There's another folder that I care about. API helper generated lib. I guess no, because the foreign folder is outside this now, so that doesn't even count like the headers for free type anymore. So yeah, that's pretty close to the actual number. Alright, so yeah, and a lot of that is coming from, like, if I do platform, if I switch to like platform Win32 for instance, whoops. So there's 2,000 lines in just one Windows platform. About 2,000 lines in the Linux one alone. $1,500 in Mac. And there's the shared code that's used by both Linux and Mac. Another 500, so, or 400. So, yeah, having to support 3 platforms pads that number out by about 4,000. Well, there's a second advantage to code generation. A lot of times it's easy to think of code generation in the terms of how long did it take me to write this versus how long it would have taken me to write the thing that wasn't auto-generated. But maybe this is not your case. But the other good argument for code generation, or for like making a generator for a thing rather than just doing it manually, is hopefully you write your generator in such a way that it is robust against, you know, updates, so that when a new thing gets added that the generator will be in charge of, it can do that pretty easily, or possibly without you having to touch it at all. And then you get the bonus of like perpetually correct code, right? Like you're generating the code, you made sure that you're generating code that's going to work. You obviously can have a bug in the generator that generates bad code. It's not what I'm saying, but like it's always going to be it's always going to be in sync, and especially for things that can get out of sync silently, I really like to generate those, even if it's more work than manually doing it. No, Linux is not only 423. The 423 is the shared Unix between Mac and Linux. Linux is 2,000, not including the shared. So if you include the Unix shared stuff and the Linux stuff together, it's about 2,500 lines for Linux, which is the longest of all of them. And the reason it's so long is because there's just so many things you have to do to open a window and start OpenGL in Linux. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm going to switch this to an array of words, and then we're going to put in a count here that's the number of words we're actually matching against. We're going to try to make that work. Okay. So yeah, first things first, we're going to want to pass in an array of sizes and a count. And I might want to wrap that in such a way that, well, we'll just take the bullet. Alright, so what we want to do is get total size equals 0. For int 32 I equals 0, I is less than count plus plus I. Yeah, that's the problem. I don't tend to play with my auto generation a lot. In fact, I tend to let it rot too much. Like, it just sits there and becomes so out of date that it's actually becomes a problem. But I could definitely see going the other end of the extreme where you just spend all day every day. Like, I went that far once on a separate thing, and like I ended up a week later pulling it all out because I was like, that was not a good idea. But I was like, let's auto generate this entire like 1,000 lines of code, so that I can like compile time generate various variations of it. Um, yeah. You can definitely go and spend more time on it than what it's paying you back. But I think if it takes a little more time to write the generator than to write it by hand, that's usually okay if you're also getting the benefit from the generator that it auto syncs things together that wouldn't automatically sync otherwise. Things that can silently get out of sync are trouble, basically, is what I'm getting at. Alright, now we just want to visit all of the strings. And really I ought to include a thing that asserts that, well, let's just do it this way. If count is greater than the array count of keywords, then count equals that. That way we don't have too many. And then for words I, dot string equals char putter plus equals size I, keywords I dot size equals 0 dot memory size equals size I, char star char putter equals key base. Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely better in a bunch of ways. Okay. Right. Yeah, so now the next problem is, how do I do this well? How do I do it well? And do you know what's really annoying about these is I don't have them done well. I don't have them done nicely. Their implementations are all funky. Static void, buffer seek, string, position, and an end position. And then buffer seek string flags, buffer seek string backward equals, well, let's do the new, oh, I don't have that yet. Okay. Buffer seek string case insensitive equals 2. Buffer seek string flags. Then what we'll do is we'll do flags and 3. Case 0. Buffer seek string forward. App buffer position and min string size result. Case buffer seek string backward. Buffer seek string case insensitive, and there we go. Forward, insensitive forward, insensitive backward. Okay. Now what I can do is just go, okay, are we doing insensitive, yes or no? Are we doing forward, yes or no? And then I can build the buffer seek string flags in the following way. Case in backward, opt flag, forward, buffer seek string forward, no case insensitive, alright, forward, then if we don't see that, then backward. Okay. Perfect. So if it's case insensitive, include that. If it's not forward, then include backward. And then result buffer equals get buffer, buffer seek string, all of this mumbo jumbo here, followed by the flags. Okay, so I've punted this four-way switch off to there. Karifa asks, points out you might want to update the 4coder blurb, and I want to ask you about that. You mean here on Twitch? You update the blurb on Twitch? Because they're all over the place. There's my website, there's Twitch, Handmade Network, Patreon, itch.io. Keeping them all straight is confusing. Should I use itch.io instead of Patreon for my own projects? Okay, so here's the story about itch.io. There's a couple of reasons why I opened an itch.io page, and my take on whether you want to do that instead of Patreon. So what itch.io is they have oh yeah, I don't know how to update the Insobot blurb. Someone else would have to do that. I've never even touched that. That's maintained by someone else. I think, yeah, I don't know who made that. But the reason I moved to itch.io is because although Patreon was quite good for a lot of reasons, I wanted to switch to a slower update schedule, and I wanted to keep on charging once a month, because I didn't want to have, like, you know, in November I come out with 4 or 5 builds and I charge everyone 4 or 5 times. I'd rather have it like, look, I'm going to charge you once a month for a few months while I'm not actually doing anything, and then I'll use all that money in November to live off of while I work on 4coder full time. And that way no one's getting overwhelmed with a bunch of charges at once. And the problem is, if you tell people you're going to keep working, or you're going to stop working but keep collecting money until a time comes when you can work on it full time for a bit, not everyone's going to be comfortable with that arrangement. They'd like to stop backing you, and that's fine. And some of those people would be happier if they could, plus there is another group of people who would be happy if they could just pay once and get all the updates. And now Patreon was never really meant to be my distribution system. It was set up because a lot of people wanted to support the project, and thanks to that I've been able to make, you know, a lot more happen with 4coder than I could have if I didn't have the support. But I still didn't really mean for Patreon to be my distribution plan. So when it came time to think about, okay, there are some people who just want to start using it, and I want to get it in more people's hands. How do I want to distribute it in a way that's better for distribution? Because Patreon's not great. itch.io is great for distribution. They have a lot of tools that make it very easy. Their tools are very clean and easy to use for distributing things, and it does a very good job of, like, I don't know, being kind of invisible to you. Like the things like with, okay, let me give you a specific hard example of why I prefer itch.io for the purpose of distributing. On Patreon, to distribute stuff, you make a post, and you have to write the post, you have to make attachments to the post, and so if you're attaching 6 files from 3 operating systems, you have 3 computers open, and you're switching between them, or you have all your zips somehow shared to one computer already. So I would either need a method of sending all my zips to one place, or I have 3 computers open, and then I'm attaching one at a time each file. With itch.io, they have like a command line tool called Butler that just lets you build a script that just uploads all your latest builds, and that kind of thing is much handier to use. They also have like better analytics. They have better like search for projects and display them. The site looks nicer. Things are less janky. It's a better site in pretty much every way for distributing and for looking for things. The only problem with itch.io really is that it doesn't focus on arbitrary things. It's focused on indie games. You can still put tools on there, but people aren't generally not looking for tools there. So I still have to do like I can't just expect it to get noticed because it's there for the most part, but it does get a little bit more traffic even than Patreon did. So it's better in pretty much every way in those respects. But it is not a great way if you don't have a product that everyone is ready to buy right now. It's not a great way to build support. Patreon is still my preferred way of having like, hey, if you want to support me, then back me on Patreon. If you just want to have this thing, then you can get it on itch.io. But if you want to support the development and make it easier for me to do more stuff in the future, Patreon is still better for that because you can't really do monthly schedules on itch.io in any way. You can't do something like have different tiers easily on itch.io is kind of difficult. Things like that. Itch.io is definitely not meant for running a sort of perpetual even level of income from supporting fans and of the project, right? It's better for distribution though, and I was kind of thinking it's about time to start transitioning to having a version of itch.io that's like me distributing it, because eventually the plan is to shut the Patreon down and only distribute the full thing once I'm only working on 4coder very little bit anymore because it's done. Then I don't want to keep the Patreon open for it because you would be supporting me for working on something that I think is done. That doesn't seem cool. And so at some point I had to work on the distribution, and itch.io is just the way I like to do it. At least until I know how to make my own storefront, but I really don't want to have to learn that. I'd rather have someone who's done it correctly for me, and itch.io does. So, that's that. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Position and min. What is min? So backward has a thing called min, and forward has a thing called end that are not the same, which is weird. Okay, so the question is, what are those? Okay, one second. I need to see what the code here was doing before. Range start. Okay, so I don't want to go past that. So okay, good. So now I've boiled this down to an issue of having one single call one set of flags that are correct. And the only problem is doing a loop over the other words. So let's work on that real quick. So string word is I. So if I'm trying to move forward, then smaller positions are better. So otherwise, other way around, right. So there I'm updating my best position according to whether I'm moving forward, then I want the nearest thing moving forward, and if I'm moving backwards, then I want the nearest thing moving backwards. And then, at the very end, I can finally set the range. Now how did this part work? I should have saved the original, but I'm pretty sure they all did this, right? They all... Oops, let me do even better job. Scratch. What did this look like before I changed it all? Result start. Okay. That's what didn't make sense. Okay. Start position. Later, Karifa. Thanks for stopping by. Alright, so now I want to set the result start to the best position. Okay. So that should hopefully do a search across all of the words correctly. I'm hoping. You can go away now. Okay, so the next problem is this is how I match. This is how I check if one single word matches. But I have multiple words. And I guess the easiest thing to do is just check them all for now. So every occurrence of key.word should just say word again. And then instead of doing what I'm doing, we're going to do a loop. And the only problem is making sure we're breaking out of the loop at a good time, but we'll deal with that. Not a problem. So now that will tell me whether or not we find a match. Found match. Here's the rule. At the end of one loop through, if found match equals find result find result found match, then result equals that we found a match and we break. Else, if the found match equals find result past end, then we're going to set find result to past end. Otherwise, it'll just stay null, or none. And then in that result gets returned. Now, the only problem with that is the word result is already used. So I'm going to change this to result code. We're going to return the result code, and we're going to set the result code. Alright, once I've got this second option checked off, I'm going to take a 30-minute break to get lunch, and then we'll do the rest of them that I can get to today at least. Search front to back. What's going on here? Why is this using the word of the key? So that's the only place where it gets used, like that. Oh, it gets used again here. Ah, see, that's a problem, because it's assuming there's one single size for the word, and there isn't. So what I want to do... First I want a min size idea. Like, yeah. So this right here should be key dot min size. When we're allocating a key, four. Min size. And then what? We set the keys min size to the min size. Okay, so that solves that one. Now this one is a little bit more problematic. Because I don't actually know this value with just the information I'm given. So let's see, this one is setting the start. Match check. We found a match. Otherwise we'll do at the very beginning result dot match word index equals -1, but we will say that if we ever are going to return that we found a match, then the result dot match word index will equal I, the one we're checking. Okay. What else have you got for me? Okay. So now I'm just going to upgrade this to the new API without changing anything else. So it's going to look like this. Here, just take that and a 1. And then copy that into there. Again, just take that and a 1. Whoops, didn't mean to hit build yet. And copy that into there. Now what are you looking at Word for? I think this just needs to do for and 32 I equals 0, I is less than plus plus I. What was I doing? Key count, okay. So add all of the original keys in or keywords into the table. What is this? What even is this? Okay, I don't know what this even is. If we're doing the init, size, what is size for? You know what, we could just say this whole thing assumes there's exactly one word, and then that would make this easier. In theory, this could be written to support multiple words, I guess, but it's not written that way right now, and it would be kind of a pain in the butt, so we're not going to rewrite it. Not today. That is not the nature of my current mission. Hey, there we go. Alright. Probably broke stuff this time, but let's take a look. See where we're at. Yep, that's definitely broken. What about this? Broken? Okay, it's all broken. So let's walk through an execution of this. Four-coder search generic search all buffers. Here we go. What is going wrong with you? So words, key, count is 0. Well, that's not good. That could explain it right there. Alloc key, someone needs to be setting the key's count to count. Uh-oh. Hitting an assert now. Okay. Let's take a look. So match result. Range initialized, initialize the range, back position, position. Type, forward match, backward match, forward result, backward result. Search front to back, forward result. Okay, did we find a match? Seek a potential match. Okay, so we've got flags. We are not doing case insensitive, we are doing forward. We get the buffer. We're doing forward to the best possible position. This is 105.4888 because we haven't seen anything better. We start checking, we get a word. We're doing part, new position, buffer seek string, case insensitive. This isn't case insensitive? Wait a minute. Right, this is word complete. Got it. Seek string. Seek forward. Yada yada yada. We find it. Hey, why'd you do that? That wasn't what I wanted you to do. And again. We go in here. We initialize the range. Forward and backward. Forward result. We're looking for the forward result. We seek a potential match. Start is less than the end position. It is. Then the result starts here. We do a match check. Found a match. Buffer get char. Char is alphanumeric UTF-8. Prev. Buffer seek alphanumeric. And so result goes from 306 to 325. Found a match. Match in word index equals 0. And 306 to 325. Position equals end. Great. And there we go. Now we do the same thing backward result. So I have a backwards match at 281, 281. That can't be right. No. Okay, that's where I want to start next time, because that's where things got wacky. Next. Okay, backward. Back position is still greater than the start of the range. Did we find a match yet? No. Position is greater than the start of the range. Here's the start position. Seek a potential match. Best position came from start position. Okay. So I don't want to initialize, search or seek potential match. I don't want to start from start position. I actually want to go to the end, which is 0 when you're seeking backwards. Okay. The start is the start for both of them, and 0 is the end for backwards, and end position is the end for forwards. Got it. Basic. Part. And if I eliminate these real quick, hey! It's back to behaving correctly, it looks like. Alright, good deal. And what about if I search for part? That's not good. So that's still broken. Part. Okay. So what's happening here? We have a word. I don't get it. Why is you have memory, you have 4 bytes, and we copied. Wait, why are you empty? I don't get it. Okay, right now it says part and the size is 4. Something gets changed. Alright, here it is. When does this get lost? String.size, string... Wait, what? I missed it. How is that possible? Okay. And again. String says part. Says part. It's gone. What? Who even is this? Okay. There's your address. And what's your address? 23A 9F670. That's way away from this, so clearing that to 0 shouldn't have done anything, right? 590670. It's like 256 bytes different, almost. How did they get cleared to 0? Wait a minute. What is this nonsense? Why am I... Who am I even? I'm... Jeez, oh Pete. I can't believe this even ever worked. Okay. Okay, so... how does that look? Okay, back to working, and now free of stupid crap that I can't believe I ever put in there. I can't believe no one's ever had a bug. Wow. Wow. That's really bad. That was truly bad. Okay. So, that's a big plus. We fixed that thing. It should have definitely been breaking for everyone everywhere across all of time and space. And now, we can get back to the situation at hand, which is looking for definitions. This is where I started this whole thing. Okay. So, the idea is... the idea is to basically make a bunch of these things. Struct, union, enum. That's 6. Okay. trying to decide what the easiest way to declare this is. I mean, the easy way to do it would be to be able to go like this. Oh, you can't. Oh, you friggin'. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now we want to do struct, and I want to do bar string dot stir. One, two, three, four, five, six. Hey there, Drunk Dane, how's it going? Same thing with reunion and enum. Now, how do I actually do that? Probably as a macro. Wait, they're all the same. Why don't we just do it this way? Static void, static string, build string 3, partition part. Well, I'll just call it build string. That's not a problem. Char star S1, S2, S3. SR, return SR, int32 len equals string size plus string size plus string size. S1, S2, S3, dot string equals push array. This should be string.memory size, part char string memory size, size, well that's already going to be true, and then we can just copy into the string S1, followed by appending into the string S2 and S3, and hey, why don't we just make them all match, and that'll work since SR size has to 0 initially anyway. That'll return the new string. We just need to temp memory temp equals begin temp memory on the partition now. and the temp memory on the temp, and then that'll do a pretty good job of finding most type definitions. It won't find structs. I could do something that would find those, but I won't find type defs. But I could do something that would find those, but it would also find a lot of like forward declarations of things, and I'm gonna just skip it. I would need regex for that, which is probably a good idea to do sometime soon, but there we go, a bunch of potential match strings for you, and then what? Generic search all buffers. It's currently set up to take a string. I'm going to set it up to take an array of strings. Yep, okay. And so to do this correctly now, what we need to do is, instead of passing in the size of one string, we need a an array count of the key's words, and then we want to memset that to 0 initially, and then if count is greater than that, set count equal to that, and then loop over them size is I equals string does kind of raise the question, why on earth am I allocating this separately? Oh well. Yeah, I'll eat. Don't you even worry about it. We're almost done. Upgrade to just use the string array on the stack. Alright, and then dot size. That gives me all those. Size is count. How are we looking? Strings. Hey, get out of here. I don't need you. Do the thing. There we go. Yep, that's another loop. There we go. That might be nice to have. There we go. And now I can just say pointer1, 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 identifier parameters, pointer1, pointer1, whoops, not F1, that's going to do a build. I'm gonna steal that idea and not even comment. Oop. Oop. Okay, generic search all buffers. Here we go. App, global, general. We already have that. It's part. You're also part. Why are there two? Oh, my bad. Global general. This one here is match strings, array count, match strings, and the flags. What are the flags? Here's a list of the flags that are available, and we're gonna do, let's see, match whole word, and that's, whoops, yep, that's it, perfect. You know what? No, not even that. Just case sensitive. That's the only one we're going to keep. We won't turn case insensitive on, so that will be looser in every other way. Wait, we probably need one of those, don't we? Whole words. Substring. Match whole word, match word, prefix, match substring. I've got to pick one. Substring. Why don't I have this just have a default? That seems better. That should be the default. So there we go. Then I don't need to pass anything in. And I can just say, no flaggos. Through asks, what font is this? This is... Oh, I didn't, I launched it in, sorry if this is too small. I normally run my streams with bigger font. Like this, or this. But hey, you know what? This. There we go. This is hack. Okay. So I think the next thing I need to do is test it and see if it goes. And so I'm going to put it under experiments real quick. I can't remember what is already used, so I actually need 4coder.com/bindings. My website is not secure, by the way. I don't even know how people go about making their site secure. I don't know what that means. I should really learn what the internet is. at some point. Control. Alright, I want to know if control capital D is taken. Yes, delete the line. Okay. What about, yeah, T, control capital T takes me to all occurrences of a token. Alright, we're going to test this out on see, I don't even know if secure means sending stuff this way or that way. I don't, like, is it really only for sending things back to the site? Because I would have never known that. I would have assumed that could mean there's, like, the ability to send random shit intersect, like, to someone's browser, but who knows? Certainly not me. Okay, I'm going to open all the code in my project, and now I want to list definitions for, let me think of something in my project that I have a struct. Hey, cool. It found the search key. Let's try that again. List definitions for there's my view. Now if I did list all occurrences of that token, we'd see there's a lot more of them. So that's neat. Okay. Any thoughts on Emacs org mode? I don't know much about the various Emacs modes. I don't generally like Emacs modes. I think org mode is the one that's like organized as to-do lists, right? Or something like this. Alright, so we have list all locations of type definition. If I want to go eat, what I have to do is just go like this. There we go. And then with token under cursor. Okay, so those are some things I want to do when I get back. I'm going to take my break now to go eat. I will see you guys at about 1:45 or 1:50. Thanks for coming to check out this part of the stream, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.